Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Watch list is really not going to be too much to it. It's going to be pretty much the same thing as last week. Couple things to go over first. One, put to call ratio I've just posted on my Twitter is very high. It's at 0.80, so I'm expecting a short squeeze tomorrow or Tuesday. Whenever there is too many people on one side of the trade, you can expect the opposite to happen. So therefore, everyone is on the put side, and that usually will trigger a short squeeze. Now, hopefully we'll see it tomorrow. If not, maybe Tuesday. As far as the economic calendar, we have Monday, we have nothing. Tuesday, we have retail sales, which should be interesting because inflation, according to the government, is going down, but everybody knows the government numbers in reality are totally two different things. So retail sales probably could end up being bad. So retail sales at 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have FOMC, no Powell, so we'll probably get a good reaction at 2 o'clock and probably not too much more after that. So yeah, no Powell, FOMC, they end up being the best ones because no Powell, with no Powell, there's no implied volatility. It's you can get SPX very, very cheap at the money. I think the last time we didn't have Powell, we could get SPX at the money. It was like at $6, if I remember correctly, and that is really huge when you can be at the same strike, put and call wise, and get like $6. That's just really, really good versus other times when Powell speaks. You have to pay $8-9 per contract, and you have to pay a 100-point spread. So, playing a 100-point spread is not my ideal of a good time to play for FOMC. But no Powell should be very easy and straightforward. On Thursday, pre-market, we have unemployment claims at 8:30, and Friday we don't really have anything. So it's fairly light for economic calendar this week, except for Tuesday morning and FOMC and Thursday. So other than that, there's really not much going on. Put to call ratio I already went over. Now, the thing with a short squeeze is that we could just have a one day that's really super green just to get everybody stopped out. Then we could end up going lower. So don't think that we're going to go to all-time highs, because that might not be the case. We may just have a $5 to $10 strong green day to get everybody out of the puts and back into calls, and for them to dump it more. So usually a short squeeze usually lasts a day or two. I don't expect anything much, maybe $5 to $10 day when the day it happens. So either or, we'll be watching it in both directions. If the short squeeze does happen, I would watch it over Friday's high of we'll round up to 447, because we don't know how it's going to open up tonight. For push to 448, 450, you get this gap to fill right here at the 454, and if it gets over 54, we can probably get to 460. Remember, SPY has not had a $10 green day in a long time. The last time put to call ratio was high was right here. I highlighted it on the Twitter page. Was March 31st, May 31st, sorry. And this was the short squeeze right here. It went from 415 to 428. So it went almost $15 on a short squeeze play right there. So we could definitely see 460. No problem. And who knows what's going to happen from there. So we're not going to try to predict the future, because we don't do that. I'm just going based on the put to call ratio. Any chance you have to use some kind of data to your advantage, use it. So, but like I said, tomorrow we could drop tomorrow, and we could have the short squeeze Tuesday. So if that is the case, we'd watch it on either 444. For push down, we get a gap to fill right down here. Oh, actually, did we fill it? Oh yeah, I think we came pretty close to filling it, but we might be off. 442.97. No, we didn't quite fill it. We're off probably 50 cents from filling this gap, so we could probably finish filling it. We get gaps down here, but I don't think we're going to see that for a little bit. But yeah, if it does manage to get underneath the 444, we got room down to 440, 435, 430, 425, 420. That would fill the gap right there. And 415 or 410 is the big area, but we'll have to see which day we get to the short squeeze on. So definitely keep an eye on that. We'll be playing and watching both sides of SPY, because we could end up saying watching SPY, and SPY could gap up $4 or $5 tomorrow or tonight into tomorrow, and if it does do that, I mean, that could be enough to take out all the puts, then dump it. So that's why you need to be in the room, because the pre-market has been crazier than the actual day itself, and the range. So that's why you need to be in the room. Now, if they do have a short squeeze, that would get VIX probably down to the 13 level again, or maybe even lower. So VIX does not look that good. It could drop back down to the 13 if the short squeeze happens. So I'm only pointing that out because we have a red day that's inside candle on the VIX, and usually when VIX starts to do a rounded top like this, it usually ends up finishing off. So definitely it does fit the scenario of a short squeeze happening based on what the VIX is looking like. So, but yeah, VIX definitely be looking at probably SPY to pull back once it gets under 13 again, because VIX is not going to stay under 13. There's way too much stuff going on in the world. That's why I think the short squeeze is only going to last a day or two, if that. Apple. Apple's pulled back quite a bit, and it's right around the 177. Didn't quite get to 175. Didn't fill that gap right down here. Well, did it? No, it didn't. It's got a little bit of a gap right here to fill. So if SPY does have a short squeeze, Apple's probably going to end up taking off, and I would watch it over Friday's high of 170. Well, let's say 178, 50-ish. To 180, 185. I don't think it's going to get much higher than over 185. Get a gap fill right here, but I don't think that it's going to fill the gap. It could. Don't get me wrong. I definitely could fill it, but usually when you have a gap down, it will drop and it will come back up and retest the gap resistance, which is right here at the 187, 35 area, and usually rejects on the first try before actually filling the gap. But sometimes, once in a while, it does do something crazy and fill the gap. Plus, I also want to mention that the RSI on Apple is at below 30, and that you don't see Apple under 30 very, very often. I think that's only happened a couple times. We'll blow up this area right here. Last time was over here, and it popped up. And the last time was over here, which is right over here. And then I had that monster rally from pretty much $75 rally. So keep an eye on a bounce right here, especially being oversold on the daily. And if the short squeeze happens, it definitely does play into that scenario too. Microsoft, another one. Now it's pulled back on the weekly down to the Keltner channel, middle of the Keltner channel. It's at support right here. This gap support. Well, what is this right here? Yeah, gap support's right here. So yeah, it tried to hold the gap. It didn't fill the gap from whatever this was. It might have been the AI news. No, that was the AI news. I don't know what that was. It's not earnings. Earnings is over here. I don't know why it gapped up here. But anyways, you get a resistant support right here in the 320 area. So we'll have to see if this actually does bounce. And if the short squeeze scenario plays out, then I would watch it over 323, 325, 330, 335, 340 is a big area right here. It might not be able to get over 340, so keep an eye on that. Now, also, if it does end up dropping and gets below Friday's low of 319, it could end up filling the gap, and we could end up making a dump down to 315, 310, 305, 300. 300 is going to be a big psychological number. I don't think it's going to break that. Plus right here is earnings gap up. It will not fill the gap on the first shot. It will go and test it if it even gets that low. I don't even think it's even going to get to 300. We have to need a pretty significant drop in the market because the RSI on Microsoft's already getting pretty low. It's about 38. I don't think, when is the last time it actually got below 30 down here, right there. And over here. So yeah, anyways, Microsoft, we'll have to see what happens right there. Now on Netflix has got a head and shoulders on the daily. You get the left, the head, and the right shoulder. Neckline, depending on where you draw, it could be right here at 420, or you could draw it right here at the 413, 414 area. Either or is fine. I mean, I think that definitely the 414 area looks better because it lines up with this, this, and this. And if that does end up breaking down, it could drop down to 400, 390, 380. It could drop down pretty substantial. 400 would be a big psychological number for it to break. It's a lots of support right here. And the middle Keltner channel on the weekly is right there too. So, but just be aware, Netflix has a head and shoulders. Have to see if that plays out. NVIDIA has been pulling back. But one thing I want to point out about NVIDIA is that it's got gap support right down here at 375. But we're not there yet. But we get some support right here in the 405 area and 400. It could end up trying to bounce here. RSI is really low on the hourly and low on the daily too. And the RSI has cooled off quite a bit on the weekly. It did get inside the Keltner channel again. So that is definitely a good sign. It could get down all the way down to the 375, which is where the middle Keltner channel is. But that would have to be a pretty big drop. But, you know, NVIDIA can drop $20 in a day, no problem. So it's possible they could do that. But I'm thinking it's going to bounce right here, maybe a little bit, maybe make a head and shoulders kind of a play where the left, the head, and possibly the right shoulder, a little bit small of a bounce, then end up tanking a little bit down to gap support, maybe even fill the gap. We'll have to see. But NVIDIA is definitely shaping up. I think we're going to end up getting a small bounce around 400. We'll have to see what happens, if that happens or not. Just putting it at everyone's radar so people that trade it can do something and plan accordingly. Tesla's pullback, pretty nice. It gets back to the RCT trend line right here on the weekly. It's found support at the 240 area. This is where gap support is right here. But a couple things to keep an eye on. If it does end up bouncing more and having a continuation, I'd watch it over 245 for push to 250, 255, 260. Basically every $5, 265, 270. Then you get gap support right here at 280. I don't think it's going to break that. It's going to, if anything, retest it and pull back. But also keep an eye on that. It's pretty close, hovering at the gap support. That if the market does get weak, it could fill the gap pretty easily. So I would watch underneath 240. For push down to 235 area to even 230. So Tesla is pretty iffy right here, depending on what the market does. Sometimes Tesla just does what it wants to do, even if the market's going one way. It has a mind of its own. So with that said, that's pretty much the watch list. A lot of ifs this week. Short squeeze, FOMC, see if the market goes down more after the short squeeze or not, who knows. A lot of ifs, but that's why we take it one day at a time. That's why I need to be in the room. And who knows what will drop for news during the week. Hopefully we'll get something started this week and we'll have some more volatility. The volatility has not been much, if anything, this week on SPY. I mean, we haven't had any any really good days except for this day. What was the range on that? $6, $7, $6. I mean, we really haven't had a really big $10 day in a long time. That's what, 459. That's $8. We haven't had a $10 day in a while. I mean, I miss when we had those $10 days. Hopefully we'll have one pretty soon, regardless of which way it is. We'll be ready for it. But knowing that the put to call ratio is high, I'll be leaning more towards calls the next day or two until it happens. So that's going to do it for the watch list. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the room.